If you think watching an unexpected sex scene is awkward, just imagine how it must have felt to make it. Actually, you don't have to imagine at all. We'll tell you exactly what goes on behind the scenes when the clothes come off. First off, it's worth noting that nude scenes are not necessarily the same as sex scenes. After all, nudity isn't inherently sexual. There are plenty of movie moments where characters are naked for reasons that have nothing to do with sex, such as the scene with the showering soldiers in Starship Troopers. Inversely, there are plenty of sexually charged scenes in movies featuring characters who are fully clothed. The association of nudity and sex in film is largely thanks to the Hays Code, a set of strict regulations that censored what could be shown on the big screen between 1934 and 1968. Under the Hays Code, any nudity, regardless of sexual intent, was a big no-no. Even after the Hays Code was dissolved, the public attitude towards nudity stuck. In more recent years, plenty of films have found ways to utilize nudity that decouple it from sexuality. Take the raunchy 2023 comedy No Hard Feelings, for example. We don't see anything particularly risque during the sex scenes themselves, but Jennifer Lawrence ends up bearing it all during a fight with some teenagers who stole her clothes. Nevertheless, the most notorious nude scenes in cinematic history, and the ones that end up being the most complicated, awkward, and hilarious to film, involve sex in some way. Let's clear this up right away. The Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, more commonly known as SAG-AFTRA, make it explicitly clear that actors cannot have actual sex while filming a sexually explicit scene. Actors should never be expected to film a scene of that nature without some kind of physical barrier. This means that anytime you see movie characters involved in hanky-panky, it's not for real. These sequences are typically supervised by an intimacy coordinator, who is responsible for communicating the needs of the actors during scenes that involve sex and nudity, as well as organizing the shooting of these scenes so they don't violate an actor's boundaries. An actor will outline those boundaries in a section of their contract called a nudity rider. To maximize protection during sex scenes, an intimacy coordinator will often provide performers with an object they can place between them as a barrier. As Bridgerton actor Jonathan Bailey told Radio Times, "It's amazing what you can do with a half-inflated netball." If actors start to become actually turned on, the crew needs to stop filming right away. Intimacy coordinator David Thackeray told Backstage, "The worst thing you can do is carry on. Give them 5 minutes, then we come back into it when they're ready."
Sometimes there's real chemistry between two people and you start feeling like it's real.
Intimacy coordinators are a Hollywood staple now, but before they became commonplace, many performers were expected to violate their boundaries for nude scenes. In one particularly infamous example, Marlon Brando and Maria Schneider's sex scene from Last Tango in Paris was not consensual. Although Brando and Schneider didn't have sex for real, director Bernardo Bertolucci deliberately withheld from Schneider that he wanted Brando to smear butter all over her, claiming that he wanted to capture her genuine humiliated reaction on camera. Another actor who chose to remain anonymous told Variety Australia that she was pressured into doing uncomfortable things because she didn't have an intimacy coordinator protecting her. She recalled being asked to remove her panties during a shower scene, even though the camera would only show her from the waist up. What's more, in the past, Hollywood has placed the burden on actors to stop the spread of sexually transmitted diseases. For instance, Rock Hudson wanted to tell his Dynasty co-star Linda Evans that he had HIV, but he was concerned that he might be fired if he announced his diagnosis. It was the 1980s after all. At the time, doctors were still figuring out how HIV was spread, so Hudson feared that he might transmit the disease to Evans during their kissing scene and felt incredibly guilty. Hoping to protect Evans, Hudson gargled mouthwash beforehand, and Evans didn't find out until later why he seemed so reluctant to kiss her. When it's time to film a nude scene, intimacy coordinators will bring a whole toolbox of garments that actors can use to cover themselves. For one, performers can use pasties to conceal their nipples. Actors may also put on a shaboo or hibu, a patch of adhesive fabric worn as a strapless thong. Intimacy coordinator Alicia Roders told Backstage, "We take a shaboo, open it up, and put a silicone guard underneath so everyone becomes like a Barbie doll."
I do not have a vagina. And he does not have a penis. We don't have genitals.
That's okay, yeah.
Sometimes actors will also wear elbow pads or knee pads. This is never particularly sexy, but it is sometimes necessary if an actor needs to remain in awkward positions for multiple takes. Naturally, these garments are artfully omitted from the shot. Intimacy coordinators may provide a performer with a merkin, which is essentially a wig for pubic hair. Alternatively, filmmakers might add the hair digitally in post-production, as cinematographer Seamus McGarvey did for 50 Shades of Grey. In an interview with the New York Times, McGarvey shared, "I wouldn't say it was one of the highlights of my career, but it certainly was one of the most surreal scenarios." When it comes to shooting sex scenes, it's easy to imagine that actors just wing it. The truth is that this rarely happens. With such delicate matters, nothing should be left to chance. Jake Gyllenhaal once compared shooting sex scenes to filming a fight sequence. Both needed to be choreographed beat by beat to make sure they ran smoothly. Intimacy coordinators need to talk with the actors to determine exactly what each of them feels comfortable doing. Actors always feel more at ease before a sex scene, or any scene for that matter, if they know that there will be no surprises. Sometimes actors will practice first with their clothes on. Director John Krokidis explained to Vulture, "If we rehearsed it enough times with clothes on, there would be less time having to put two naked men in awkward positions. That would make the actors feel self-conscious."
He's in his underwear, you're in your underwear, and you're sort of, dry humping on a bed.
The camera crew also needs to rehearse, carefully planning the framing and motion of each shot before they begin shooting. Intimacy coordinators will occasionally use neon green tape on actors' bodies to mark exactly where the camera is not allowed to go. Sarah Treem, a writer on the show The Affair, summed it up for the New York Times by saying, "We had to create sex scenes that looked like we weren't trying to cover body parts when we were." Sometimes actors can film sex scenes without even touching their partners. For instance, Lars von Trier's Nymphomaniac hired porn performers as body doubles for the actors and used CGI to combine their bodies. Producer Louise Vest told The Hollywood Reporter, "So above the waist it will be the star, and below the waist it will be the doubles." Actor Stacey Martin explained to MTV that her movements were carefully choreographed and tracked, saying, "We would get little black dots on our bodies." Other filmmakers have found more low-tech solutions. John Turturro recorded on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert that a sex scene between Kate Winslet and James Gandolfini for his movie Romance and Cigarettes had to be done in a particular way. Winslet had sprained her ankle, and Turturro realized that the scene simply wasn't working with Winslet trying to straddle Gandolfini. So instead he had each of them film their parts separately. Gandolfini had to pretend that Winslet was on top of him, while Winslet bounced on an exercise ball. Apparently, Winslet bounced so hard that she fell off the ball at the end of the shot. Still, Turturro wanted audiences to believe the pair were actually in the same room.
Yeah. So I took Kate's wig, and as James was having sex, I threw Kate's wig in front of the camera.
Of course, there are still countless actors who choose not to film nude scenes for various reasons. Megan Fox has insisted that she won't film nude scenes anymore now that she's a mother, since she doesn't want her children to see her in those films. Jessica Alba says she has avoided full nudity to avoid having an awkward conversation with her grandparents. Penn Badgley made it a point to limit his sex scenes in the Netflix series You, explaining that he didn't want to be typecast as a romantic lead. He also felt that it would be more respectful to his wife if he wasn't constantly expected to film sex scenes. According to Entertainment Weekly, Isla Fisher pushed for a character to not appear nude in Wedding Crashers, insisting, "If you see a character's breast, she's no longer funny." Unfortunately, the film's producers wouldn't listen to her. All Fisher could do was arrange to have body doubles for the film's nude scenes. Meanwhile, Mandy Moore shared in the DVD commentary for Chasing Liberty that she got a body double for the skinny dipping scene because the river looked unsanitary. Even Sex and the City star Sarah Jessica Parker had a clause in her contract stating that she never appear nude on the show, which goes to show that you can star in a series of lots of sex without necessarily needing to strip down. It's no secret that the Motion Picture Association, or MPA, is notoriously inconsistent when it comes to rating movies. However, it can be truly astonishing how wildly their policy toward nudity varies from film to film. For one, male nudity is treated as more shocking than female nudity. While Kate Winslet's body was on full display in the PG-13 Titanic, Michael Fassbender's full frontal nudity in Shame earned the film an NC-17 rating. In fact, the MPA began including the content warning of male nudity to accompany its ratings, even though all instances of female nudity have been categorized as just nudity without any gender-specific labels. Aside from revealing a clear double standard and undermining the purported purpose of the rating, the policy also suggests a bias against queer couples. In one of the few ways that MPA has actually behaved consistently, the organization has shown a tendency to give stricter ratings to movies with LGBTQ+ characters, regardless of the film's actual content. The film Love is Strange, which features a middle-aged gay couple, received an R rating despite having no sex or nudity at all. COVID-19 changed the film industry forever, so filmmakers obviously needed to change the way they filmed nude scenes and sex scenes going forward. Some studios used editing tricks to make it seem like two actors were embracing, even if they weren't in the same room together. Others quarantined and used bare-bones crews to accomplish their visions. For actors who felt comfortable being within 6 feet of their co-star but were wary of kissing them on the lips, intimacy coordinators had to find other creative ways of evoking the same feeling. For scenes where it wouldn't have been safe for two actors to have such close contact, the show The Bold and the Beautiful replaced them with lifelike inflatable dolls. Piers Wenger from BBC Drama even proposed the idea that actors would kiss each other with a sheet of Perspex between them. Even before COVID times, when all else fails, filmmakers and showrunners sometimes just need to make do without any sex or nudity. To compensate for this, the creators of shows like Riverdale have substituted more graphic material with flirty dialogue loaded with innuendos.
There's always room for one more kitty in my litter box.
Dynasty showrunner Josh Reams told the New York Times, "The joke among the writers is that we will watch two characters say they want to have sex and then cut to them saying, 'That was some great sex.'"